All right. What an absolute pleasure. Melissa, thank you so much for being here and welcome to the She Got Lucky podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited. I've followed you on Instagram for a while, so I'm so excited to be here.
Well, look, this was an absolute no-brainer. I've already shared with you. You were on my dream guest list because there is so much we can unpack here. Now, I always like to invite my guests to share a moment, their She Got Lucky story.
You know, I haven't so much had the luck, but I've had easy for you. Yeah. And look, I am speaking from being a very privileged. I grew up in Australia. We live in a beautiful country. You know, it's not a war-torn country. I am a white Australian, and I recognize that I have a lot of privilege in that, you know, in of itself. And so I don't want to discredit that at all. And so, you know, things like even I remember when I landed the role of dancing at the Moulin Rouge in Paris. This was when I was 20 years old. I auditioned to dance in Paris. They would come to Australia, and there was girls from all over Australia. I think like 500 or 600 girls in the room. And they were taking, I think, 5. And I got chosen. And I remember someone saying, that wasn't at the audition, like, that's easy for you, you know, because you're the look that they're looking for or whatever. And I was like, if only they saw how challenging that 7-hour audition was, where we were cartwheeling and split jumping and flicking and kicking and learning choreography. It was one of the most challenging auditions I've ever done. And, you know, when people do say things like it's easy for you or it's, you know, lucky for you, it kind of shows more about them than, you know, you. It says a lot about them. And I truly don't believe in luck. I truly believe that we're all creating our life moment by moment.
Yes.
And, you know, it's kind of a bit of a punch in the face when you've worked so hard for something and someone just says, oh, easy for you or lucky for you.
Yeah.
So if you're someone that says that, I would reflect on, you know, why do you feel like you have to say that? Does that make you feel good about yourself? And what is it like? What feelings come up for you when you say that? Is it, you know, jealousy or comparison? So there's a lot for it in the person who says it, you know?
Yes. And a lot of the time that's the case, isn't it? When someone says something and it makes you feel bad about yourself, there's opportunities for work. There's opportunities for that person to realize, why did you feel the need to say that? But then also, if it does impact us, if it does affect us, there's the opportunities there. Now, Melissa, I don't often say, can you take me back? But I really do feel like we need to go back to those auditions, to that period in your life where you were training so hard to become a dancer, to dance in the Moulin Rouge, because I do feel like that's a big part of your story. So can you take us back where this began and sort of those key points that built to where you are today?
Yes. Well, it's a long story, but I'll nutshell it and condense it, do a rapid fire version for you. But I started dancing when I was 3 years old. I started performing and I loved it. Absolutely loved it. Loved being on the stage. It was just my happy place. When I was 15, I started working professionally. I got an agent and I started working doing dancing gigs, being paid to do it, doing TV commercials as an actress and getting like some modeling jobs. And I loved it. And then I didn't even realize you could make a career out of it. I didn't know it was a thing. And so from 15, like my mum would pick me up from school and I'd go to auditions, or I'd have to leave school early to go to auditions or to film something. And I loved it. Even though I didn't go to a creative school, I went to like a normal academic high school. You know, I was kind of looked at a little bit weird for even doing that. Like none of my friends were doing that. No one in my school was doing that. Yeah. And so when I finished high school, everyone was applying to go to university. So I applied to do a Bachelor of Business majoring in marketing, and I got in. I did really well at school. Like I really wanted to do well. Like I wanted to academically do well to have that, if I wanted to use it.
Yeah.
But after year 12, I auditioned for a performing arts college, and I went and moved from Brisbane to Sydney, so different cities. I moved when I was 17, and I went to this performing arts college where you're singing, acting, and dancing all day long for a whole year and training to become a professional. And you train and you train and you get an agent, and then you start working. And I loved that so much. And I worked in Sydney and traveled around for a couple of years. Then I auditioned for the Moulin Rouge, and I went over there and I did that for a year, which I loved. And then I went on a holiday to London, and I was like, London is so amazing. So I went and lived there for 2 years and loved it there. And I was working, and I had such an amazing life there. I was like 22, 23, living the dream, getting paid to travel all around the world as a dancer, actress, TV presenter. Like I was just thought I was living the dream, but I was definitely burning the candle at both ends. Like I was not nourishing my body. I had no idea of the importance of sleep or clean food or, I thought partying every night of the week was okay, drinking alcohol and, junk food and not sleeping. And I just didn't know any of these things, and I didn't know the importance of them. Even though I was a dancer, it was a very unhealthy industry, like a lot of dancers, they just like eat sugar, it's just like sugar and coffee and things like that. So when my visa expired, when I was living in London, I had to move back to Australia, and I was absolutely devastated. I was completely devastated. I was like, I don't want to move back to Australia. I had a boyfriend there who broke up with me. I left friends back there. When I moved back to Australia, I had a broken heart. My two friends that I thought were going to kind of be there for me when I moved back dumped me. I had no job. I was sleeping on my sister's friend's fold-out single, camping bed in her lounge room. So it was pretty bad. It was like rock bottom. I was kind of just doing like admin jobs to make a bit of money. And I was spiraling into a very deep, dark depression. And I kept on ignoring all these warning signs. Like I would keep getting sick and end up in emergency with like full allergic reactions to things where my throat was closing over, all sorts of things. And I just kept on ignoring all these little whispers and nudges from the universe. And I lived for the weekend where I could numb the pain with alcohol and partying. And it took me having my health completely ripped out from underneath me and ending up in hospital for a week with like my entire immune system shutting down. And it was just the most challenging and darkest moment of my life in that hospital. Like I felt like I had no partner, no friends, no job. I was like, what is my life? Like seriously. And I remember laying there, my mom and my dad were with me, and this voice came to me, and I know this voice now was my intuition. It said, you have to get healthy and happy again, and you will live a life beyond your wildest dreams. And I was like, okay, yeah. And then this other voice came to me. It was like, surely God or the universe, whatever you believe in, didn't put us here on earth to suffer like this. Like, surely that wasn't his plan, right? And it just was such an eye-opening moment for me. I was about 23 or 24, and I remember then I had some newish friends that I'd met in yoga. I just started yoga, Kundalini yoga. And they sent me a care package, which was so beautiful. And in there was a book that changed my life. And that book was Louise Hay's You Can Heal Your Life. And I'm reading this book in hospital, and light bulbs are going off in my mind. And I turned to my mom and I was like, why haven't you taught me this stuff? And she was like, oh, darling, I'm doing the best that I can. And absolutely she is. My parents are beautiful and they're always doing the best they can. But the next morning she came up, I said to her, please bring me a journal and a pen. And I spent an entire week filling an entire journal, just journaling out so much of my pain, so much of my trauma, so so many unresolved things that I had within me. And that was the beginning of my healing journey. So that was October 2010. And this was the beginning of my spiritual journey, my healing journey, my entrepreneurial journey. So after this, I realized I needed to get healthy and happy again. And one of the first things I did was I went and studied holistic nutrition. I wanted to understand how to nourish my body. I wanted to understand. So I did a year-long course and I became a certified holistic health coach. And that was my entry into coaching. From there, I went on and did life coaching certification because it wasn't just about health. I realized it's not just about health. And then I realized that it's not just about, what you're doing here. It's like mindset is so important. So I went on and became a meditation teacher, a yoga teacher, an energy healer. And I was doing all of this whilst I was sharing everything I was learning on this thing called a blog. And I blogged 5 days a week. And it was resonating with people so deeply. People would stop me in the street and say, "Oh my goodness, that post you wrote on mastering your inner mean girl has changed my life. And that post you wrote on your battle with eating disorders and body image stuff has saved my life." And I was like, "Oh, I just thought my mum was reading that," like you forget. And so I just kept on sharing everything I was realizing and learning. I read every personal development book, spiritual book, and business and entrepreneur book I could get my hands on. And I went to every seminar and workshop that I could. And I started running my own events, my own little workshops and events. And I was coaching one-on-one, doing life and health coaching and business coaching. And then I got asked to be a motivational speaker by Lululemon. That was my first ever speaking gig. Like Lululemon Australia asked me to speak at one of their events. And I was like, what do you want me to talk about? And they were like, "Your story." And I was like, "What do you mean my story?" Like I was so shocked. I'm like, I didn't even know you could do this for a living. And so then that kind of started my speaking career. And I was writing for Cosmopolitan Australia magazine at the time, like a little wellness column. And I started creating online programs around health, relationships, and business. And then I got offered my first book deal, and with one of the biggest and best publishers, HarperCollins. Like this is one of the best publishers in the entire world. And I've written 5 books, and I started my podcast. And now I've got She Launch, my program, which helps female coaches and consultants grow their business fast without burning out. And so I've been doing this for the past, since 2011. And it's just kind of snowballed from there.
Oh my gosh. No wonder I think you've lived 100 lives. You really have. Listening to all the things, and I did this, I tried this, I learned from this. And I love surrounding myself, and I love encouraging other women to surround yourself with women who take action. It might not be the right step forward, but it is a step forward. And with every step, we learn more and we figure out more. And so I love hearing all the different steps and ways you approached things through this journey. And so one of your latest book that you wrote with your husband, is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. So let's talk about this, because time management, I love the fact that you are all the things. You are all the things. You're someone who prioritizes their own health. You're a mum, best-selling author, entrepreneur, host of your own podcast. You've got your husband. You've got so many things going on. And you've written a book to help other people claim back their time. I know that so many of us, we want to do it all and we want to do it now. And so talk me through reclaiming your time. What does that look like? And what did that look like for you?
Yeah. So Time Magic, Reclaim Your Time, Reclaim Your Life. That's the subtitle. I co-authored it with my husband, Nick Broadhurst, who is an incredible musician. He is an entrepreneur. He is an investor. He is just an amazing human being. And we wrote this together because we have multiple companies together. And obviously we're married. And so we work together and, we live together and everything. And so many of our clients inside She Launch and our friends and our family would say to us, "How do you two do it all? I don't understand. How do you two have all of these successful businesses and still have a date night and still be present parents and still go to the beach and still take care of yourselves. Like, how do you do it? And we would literally scratch our head and be like, what do you mean? How? You just do it. Like, you just run your life. Like, and then what we did was we dug deeper and we did we looked at, we did case studies, and I looked at some of these people and I'm like, oh, you don't live your life like this. Like, you are all over the shop. And that's their words. They would say that to us. I feel all over the shop. I'm so unorganized. I can't get motivated and all these things. And then we were like, we need to share this. So we'd start sharing some of our principles and some of our methodologies with our friends and our clients. And they're like, you need to write a book about this stuff. And so that's how the book kind of came about. But then when we were doing research for the book, so we worked with an incredible statistician, and the average age, what we learned from working with this statistician was that the average age that someone lives to is 79 years. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like 79? Like, that is way too young. Way too young. Like, I'm going for 110 and like anyone can come with me. That's totally cool. But like, I am not going for 79.
No.
And so when we worked with this statistician, we did a pie chart, and the pie chart is in the book. And basically we broke down, okay, so you spend 13 years of your life sleeping, you spend 4 years in email. And when you literally took all of these components, this many years commuting, this many years watching TV, this many years on social media, when you broke everything down, you were left with 1.2 years of your life to do what you love. And we were like, what? 1.2 years? So after we picked our jaw up off the floor, we were like, we have got this all wrong. Everyone has got this wrong. So you spend 13 years of your life working. Okay, so why not make that something that you love instead of just having this 1.2 years of your life doing what you love? So that's kind of like the pie chart slaps you in the face at the start of the book and kind of gives you this rude awakening to where you're flushing your time down the toilet. And then we help you reclaim it with our methodologies and with our different things that have changed our life. And this comes quite naturally. A lot of it comes naturally to both Nick and I. However, we have also learned and studied from the greats. Like, we have read countless books on time and efficiency and productivity, and we've taken different pieces from all of those and implemented them into our life, which has allowed us to live the life that we live. But in saying that as well, a lot of this stuff comes naturally to us. We're both fire signs. We're both, I'm a generator. He's a manifesting generator. We're both very organized and structured and disciplined. That's not something that we had to learn. And so we've literally had people from all over the world say this book has saved their life, changed their life. And last year it won Best Business Book and Best Personal Development Book of the Year, which is just so incredible. And so it's just amazing. And it's helping so many people reclaim their time to do more of what they love, because life is precious. We only get one, and we may as well do more of what we love. And look, nothing can prepare you for when a child comes into your life. Like, your time literally halves, and or maybe even more. And so like when I'm working, I have to be so efficient.
Yeah.
I have to fit an entire day's work in 3 or 4 hours some days. That's all I've got. Well, that's all I've chosen to work because I want to be a really present mum. And so we have a nanny, and she comes for 3 or 4 hours a day. And that's when I get my work done. And if it doesn't get done in that time on that day, then it goes to the next day. But you would be blown away with the amount of work that I get done in that time, because I am so efficient. I don't have time to sit and scroll social media. Like, I'm paying a nanny to look after my daughter while I can work, you better believe that I am laser focused and getting stuff done.
It's really interesting that you say that, because one thing that's been popping up a lot with some of my clients recently is they're in this phase of business where they've sort of moved past, that initial phase where you're wearing all the hats, you're quite busy, your schedule's quite full. And they've got to this beautiful stage of the desire was, I want more space in my week. So, great, we've structured the business to that. But now they've got days where they don't have any calls, they don't have any client work. It's time, like, they can work on the business, they can work on themselves. And it's something that's coming up is I have all this space and I just waste it. I have this time to do things and I just sit there.
Yeah. There's a law, and I cannot remember what law it is, what it's called, but it's like however much time you delegate to something is how long it will take. So if you delegate all day to cleaning the house, it will take you all day. But if you know that you have a house inspection in 30 minutes and they're coming over, you better believe that you will clean that house in 30 minutes. So it's so true. Like, I know for me too, like sometimes I'm like, yeah, okay, if you give yourself more time, you'll do it. Like, I know I have 1 hour to write the entire content for a module. I will just do it. You just get it done. So that's the thing. Like, and this is what I think makes people really good business owners and what separates them from ones that are struggling, and
Yep.
it's that delegation to the needle moving tasks, the
Yes.
revenue drivers, we call them in the book the time magic tasks. And I think a lot of people, they kind of sit down to work and one of the first things they'll do is check emails, or they'll check their Slacks, or they'll check social media, or they'll scroll social media. And what I teach inside She Launch is you sit down and you do your 3 most important tasks, your time magic tasks, or you call them your needle movers or your revenue drivers. These are the things that are going to move your business forward. And then at the end of your work session, when your brain might be a bit fried, that's when you do your emails. That's when you do your responding to comments and things like that. And I think giving yourself times to work, like I live by my calendar, and I teach this inside She Launch and teach this inside Time Magic. I live by my calendar. Everything is in there. Meditation is in there. Working out is in there. Every social and every business thing is in my calendar, and I just live by my calendar. If it's not in there, it doesn't get done. If I have white space, that's wonderful. Usually the white space is mama mode, and I just flow with my daughter and get to be fully present with her. And I make sure that there is a lot of white space in my calendar. Like half of my day is white space. So, you gotta have a CEO mindset toward your calendar and toward your time. And one of my business coaches taught me this many years ago. It's called the law of vacuum. And he says that when you don't delegate your time, like when you are not strategic about what goes into your calendar and you just leave it open, the law of vacuum comes in and it sucks out that time. And then you'll get to the end of the day and you're like, oh my goodness, I've achieved nothing. But that's because you didn't actually allocate time for those things. So if you don't allocate time, it'll just get sucked up.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really interesting insight. And I know that a lot of people will be like, you spoke to my soul there, Melissa. You spoke to my soul. So I think that's really valuable. What I also find so interesting is the ways that you have brought in, let me get this right, everyday longevity. The mysteries of everyday longevity. That's what you sort of call it. Because there's been a few times where I've jumped on my stories, or I've not jumped on mine, but I've been looking at your story, and you're going to have to correct me because I don't know the name of it. But the nose, the breathing, the air. Tell me about all the different, you've brought all these ways in to sort of, extend longevity. And I would love to hear where this sort of came from, biohacking and this element.
Yes, same. I love health and wellness. Absolutely. Like from 2010 when I was in hospital, and that was kind of like my introduction into health and wellness. And like I said, I'd kind of like thought I was healthy, but not really. Like being a
Yeah.
dancer, no, I wasn't. But like I really became super passionate about it, to be to the point of like not obsessed in a bad way, but like I just like wanted to read every book. I just wanted to learn. I wanted to study, and I did, because I was just so fascinated. And I thought, why are we not taught this in schools? And then, the biohacking probably came in 2013 when I met my husband, who is one of the smartest human beings I know. Nick is one of those people that is annoyingly good at everything he does. And he's one of those people that like everything he touches turns to gold. It's so annoying. Like all of our friends are like, everything he does turns to gold. And so he's obsessed. Like he is an entrepreneur, a businessman, he's a musician, and he's also the most knowledgeable person when it comes to health. Like he can recite science evidence on whatever it is that you want. Like he's so well educated because he's had his own health journey. He was really sick as well, and so that's what kind of inspired him to get on his own health and wellness path. So he kind of introduced me to the world of biohacking when we got together. And we just were both in love, doing infrared saunas together, hyperbaric oxygen chamber, all of these amazing things. Like we just love it. Like we would go to LA and we'd just go to all of the epic biohacking places and have the best time and hang out there and do all of the coolest things. So we have been into it for like 11 years, and just it's in our house now. Like we have infrared saunas, we have a hyperbaric oxygen chamber, we have an EWAT machine. That breathing machine that you were talking about is a hydrogen breathing machine. So I just wear it while I'm walking. And then I've also got like a walking pad that I'm standing on right now. I'm obviously not walking on it right now. I've got like this shoulder brace that I wear that helps with my posture. I usually have red light therapy around as well. We wear blue light blocking glasses at nighttime. We have red lights in our home. We do all of these amazing things that just support your body to function at its peak. And the reason we do it is because we've felt the difference. That's why we do it. We notice the difference when we don't do it. When we are not doing those things, we definitely notice the difference, and we love it. Like we absolutely love it. And so it doesn't feel like a chore for us. It's like brings us so much joy. And so there are so many things, and like those the everyday longevity things that you're talking about in Time Magic are not even those biohacks. Like the everyday longevity things are things like nourishing your body with clean whole foods, drinking clean filtered water, getting out into nature, moving your body, connections and relationships with people, doing work that you love, sleep, like nailing your sleep. Like all of these things are what we call low hanging fruits. And these are the things that everybody can do. Everybody can tweak. They're all free. Getting outside is free. Moving your body is free. Prioritizing your sleep is free. All of these things we're already doing, and you can optimize them for peak performance so that you can show up as the best version of yourself. And that's what this is all about. Like all of these things help me be the best version of me. And then on top of that, if you're super geeky, health geeky like we are, you can do some of the cool biohacking things that we love to do, but they're not even necessary. Like if you just do those everyday longevity things, you're going to be miles ahead of so many people, and you're going to feel so good, and you're going to be able to show up as the best mom or the best boss or the best content creator that you possibly can when you take care of yourself. And this is so important. Like I am not for hitting 7 figures in your business and killing
Hating every
yourself along
moment
the
of it.
way. Like what is the point? You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, no, I want to work and I want to have the income and the impact that I want, but never at the detriment of my own health. Like when we first got together, we would work until midnight. We were like hustling, like we had no boundaries around that. Like we would work and work and work. And we don't do that anymore. We have hard boundaries, hard deadlines, for ourselves, because if we don't, don't have these boundaries around work and around social media and around our phones and our devices, like we could just, because we love what we do, like you do, you can just keep going and going and going, but you need
Yep.
to put these healthy boundaries around those things for yourself.
Mm.
Otherwise, you just keep going, and
Yep.
those lines get blurred, and you need to know what is important to you and
Mhm.
add that into your life. I think that's really
Yeah.
important as well. Like, time with my husband is very important to me, which is why I have a hard deadline of when I stop working in the evening.
Mm.
And otherwise we would just keep going and going and
And
going.
I live and breathe this now, is that I am building big things in my business journey, in my businesses. But if I get to the 10 years from now and I've made, I don't even care how much money, insane amount, and I've hated every moment, I like that. I just can't think of anything worse. I just can't think of anything worse.
Mhm.
So to be able to enjoy
Mhm.
the journey, be able to live your dream life now, there are aspects around us. Every day I'm like, okay, sure, I could look for the next thing that I want. But right now, look at this. I'm living my dream life by doing this. Look at this. How cool is this? I've got my green couch in my office. How cool. And these little things allow me to enjoy every day rather than constantly next, next. I want this. I want this. And this leads really well into this was the first way I came across you, Melissa, was comparisonitis. And this is another one of Melissa's very, very successful books. And I think that this is gold because comparisonitis, comparing yourself to others, is the thief of joy. I would love to dive into comparisonitis. I feel like we're just going through. If you want to read this book, here's a little bit of a taste tester. If you want to read Time Magic, here's a little bit of a taste tester. But in comparisonitis, what is some of the takeaways that that have been really pivotal for your readers in a sense? I know it's a whole book, so to be like, can you just give us a little bit here and there? But can you talk a little bit about comparisonitis and how it might have an impact on people's lives at the moment?
Now, the subtitle for that book was Comparisonitis: How to Stop Comparing Yourself to Others and Be Genuinely Happy. And
Mm.
I wrote this because, it's something that every single human being experiences.
Yep.
And I think now more than ever, it is rife.
Yeah.
And I think we kind of know that it's rife, and maybe there's some people that are aware that they're comparing, but then there's a lot of people, a huge percentage of people that aren't even aware that they're doing it and
Mm.
wondering why they feel so crap about themselves.
Yeah.
And so this book is like a call to arms, and it's like, okay, we need to remember that social media is the highlight reel, and everybody, like, they know that, like, on a surface level, but like, do they really like know that, like, deep
Yes.
down? Are you reminding yourself when you're looking at these posts that this is the highlight reel? And most people
Mm.
aren't, because that's not how it's designed to make you feel. It's designed to make you compare yourself. That's what social media is.
Yes.
It's designed to, put up your best pictures and things like that. And that's what you do. It's like your resume. You're not going to put up your
Mm.
crappiest piece of artwork. You're
Mm.
going to put up your best stuff. And so
Mm.
therefore, we have to remember this. And therefore, it is not a fair comparison. You cannot compare yourself, because it is not the totality of somebody's life. You are seeing 6 seconds of someone's life.
Mm.
Usually not even a real 6 seconds. Like, it's like, you're dancing or whatever, like, and you've done that for that reel, which is still
Yes.
you. It's still
Mhm.
authentic, but it's produced, right?
Mhm.
And
Yep.
so we have to remember this. We have to remember this. And I think about the younger generation, and I'm like, oh, like, they are growing up with social media. They have grown up with it. And I'm
Yeah.
so glad I didn't. I didn't have social
Mhm.
media. And, I think about, oh gosh, what's it going to be like when my daughter is like a teenager? And I'm
Yeah.
hoping that they're hoping that generation's like, why would you guys even be on phones? I'm kind of hoping that is like their attitude. Get outside. Why are you on a phone? That's so lame, mum. Like I'm kind of hoping that swings around. But it's just the most important thing that we remember with comparison is that it is the highlight reel. It is definitely not a fair comparison. It is not the totality of somebody's life. And I
Yeah.
give you so many different tools and tactics of how to deal with it when it comes up for you. But, the most common areas that people compare are relationships, are like money and business, are parenting is a really big one, and what they look like, their body. They're the
Yeah.
four biggest areas where people compare. And so I want you to just like tune in with yourself and go, do I compare my relationships? Do I compare my body? Am I comparing my parenting? Am I comparing how much money I earn? And just have a little tune in and check in with yourself. And if you are, like, where does it get triggered? Is it social media? Is it your neighbor down the street? And wherever it is, just bring more awareness to that when you are on your phone.
Yeah.
And then you can choose, you can choose. Like I literally, if I find myself scrolling, like I will say, I don't scroll, and I'll stop and I'll put my phone down. Or I will, like, if I want to have a look, if I
Yeah.
literally want to have a look, I'll go, I'm scrolling for 5 minutes, and I'll say it out
Yeah.
loud. I'm scrolling for 5 minutes. And like, I find like a lot of the people I follow and accounts I follow are so inspiring. And, it's either parenting inspiration. I follow a lot of parenting inspiration and I feel so inspired. Like I get so many tips and tricks. Like I follow a lot of amazing accounts on, say this to your child instead of this. And I'm like, oh, that's amazing. Like I didn't even think of that. So like curate your feed to
Yes.
be amazing. Like I follow you. I follow a lot of social media experts where I'm like where they're like, try this, this, and this. And I'm like, cool. And I get inspired. So curate your
Yes.
feed so it's inspiring and in alignment with your core values, and then just mute everything else or unfollow. And
I
then
love it.
Instagram will be a place where you want to go. It'll be a
Yeah.
place where you actually want to have a look at, not something that you're like, oh, I've got to go on there.
And it's funny because I remember when I was starting the social impact and I would prefer going on my business account than my personal, because my personal, it was all the different ways the people I went to uni with and school with and the ways that they were living their lives. And that really didn't do me any benefit. The only benefit was feeling like I was up to date with friends, but that was about it. I usually left feeling pretty crappy. Whereas with my business account, I left feeling inspired. I felt like I'd learned something, these sort of things. And I think when you're able to take control of what you're consuming in a sense, then absolutely you make it a lot easier for yourself. But I think the other part is we hear a lot of these things. Look after yourself, be kind to yourself, give yourself kindness, give yourself extra love today. My biggest thing is that I saw a meme actually the other day for Melissa. It was like, someone says, be kind to yourself. And then the inner thought's like, yeah, be fucking kind to yourself, bitch. And it's like, yes, right? It's this journey of, and I'll give myself grace. I'm a lot better than I once was. But still, a lot of the time, I'm like, yes, be kind to yourself, Alicia. And it doesn't land on a deeper level. There's still this, whether it's imposter, whether you're listening and it's, you've got an opportunity coming up and you're like, yeah, I deserve this. But then deep down, you're like, no, you don't. You don't deserve this. That mean girl. And I know that this is one of your areas as well, is how do you truly, because it's one thing to say it out loud, but unless you really believe it deep down to your core, it just feels a little bit fake with yourself.
Yeah. Well, that's my first book, Mastering Your Mean Girl. So read that and listen and watch my TED Talk on mastering your inner critic. Do those two things. But that inner voice, the inner critic, the inner mean girl, whatever you want to call it, that voice everybody has. That's the voice
Mm.
that says, you're not good enough. Who do you think you are? You'll never get
Yes.
out of debt. You'll never get 1 million followers. Stop trying. You can't write the book. You can't start the podcast, whatever it is. We all know that
Mm.
voice, right?
Yeah.
And some people know it really well. And some people, I think men, they only have between 40,000 thoughts a day. We have between 60 and 80,000 thoughts a day. So almost double the amount of inner mean girl crap going on in between our ears than men do. And I think the more aware you are of your inner dialogue,
Mm.
the better. And you have to become aware of what is going on, what you're saying, what your inner mean girl is saying to you. And
Yeah.
you can do this by writing it down, by even saying out loud, like, my inner mean girl is telling me that I'm going to goof up on stage, or my inner mean girl is telling me that I can't write this book, or whatever it is.
Mm.
And the more you voice these things and shine light on them, they're no longer dark. And then you can
Mm.
choose, okay, that is my inner mean girl. That is not the truth of who I am, because the truth of who you are is unconditional love. And that
Mm.
truth does not know limitations like the inner mean girl. And so you can then choose, okay, am I going to believe this? Am I going to engage with this? Or am I
Yeah.
going to get out of my head and come back into my heart? There's a beautiful
Mm.
saying that says the longest journey you'll ever make in your life is about a foot, and it's from your head to your heart. It is the longest and hardest journey you'll ever make, but it is worth it. And so many of
Mm.
us are living in our head
Yeah.
and not in our heart space. And if we all
Mm.
just got out of our head and back into our heart, we would have a lot less inner mean girl dialogue going on. And, when people have really loud inner mean girls,
Yeah.
they're usually mean people. They're
Mm.
usually people that will say mean things online, or
Yeah.
that will hurt people. You know that saying, hurt
Hurt people
people?
hurt people.
And
Yeah.
it's yeah, there's people I know that are so present and beautifully, like, embodied and evolved. And
Mhm.
one of my coaches, he's like an older gray hair wise Buddhist business coach, and he's amazing. Like, he doesn't have inner bad boy stuff going on. Like, he's just
Mm.
embodied. And he's the most kind and polite person you've ever met. I had a call with him before I
Mm.
got on here, and I was just like, wow, you're such a beautiful, kind, compassionate person. And that's because he's has kind and compassionate thoughts to himself. And so
Mm.
we have to actually have more compassion for ourselves. And
Yeah.
I think one of the first places we can start is by voicing whatever our inner mean girl is actually saying to us, writing it down or saying it out loud. Or, sometimes I'll say to my husband, like, my inner mean girl is telling me that you don't want to spend time with me. And he's like, that's so funny. Like, that's hilarious. And we'll just both laugh. And I'm like, yeah, I know, that's so funny. It's like, and then we'll just have a chat about it. Or my inner mean girl is telling me that I can't do this TED talk, that I'm going to
Mm.
fall on my face as I walk out on stage, or whatever it is.
Mm.
And so just voicing it takes away the power, and voicing
Yes.
it shines light onto it. And then you can
Mm.
choose, because you can now see it's no longer dark. You've got light
Yeah.
on it. You can then choose, okay, am I going to let this like lead my life, or am I going to come back into my heart?
Mm.
So yeah, it's awareness is such a big piece, and writing it down and voicing it are so powerful, truly powerful.
Yeah. So we will definitely put in all the links below in the show notes, so that way you can go check out Melissa's books, because I just feel like there's whatever stage you're at, whether it's your personal journey or even your business journey. I'm a big believer in, when you're an entrepreneur, when you are healthy, your business does better. And so these books, no matter which stage you're at in business or life, I feel like you'll be able to gain so much from this. So I'll put all the links below. Melissa, where's the best place to come and find you and just follow more of your journey?
Oh, thank you so much. This has been so beautiful. definitely come to Instagram at Melissa Ambrosini, my website, Melissa Ambrosini, and She Launch. If you are a female coach or consultant or service provider and you want to grow your business to 6 and 7 figures without burning out, then come and work with us in She Launch. That's shelaunch.com. And then, yeah, they're like the 3 main areas. I'm on all the social platforms, but I hang out most on Instagram. And check out my podcast, The Melissa Ambrosini Show. And yeah, I'm just so grateful. This has been so much fun, and you're such a delight.
Thank you so much for joining me. Now, I have one final question before we finish up that I like to finish on. So, can you think of a phrase or a quote that has been monumental in your journey, that shifted things for you, that you're like, that changed me as a person?
Oh, yeah. The first one that comes to me, like the first thing that just came to me was, this too shall pass. This too shall pass. Whenever I have had moments of darkness or self-doubt or any sort of turmoil, like I have written that this too shall pass on a post-it note and stuck it on my bathroom mirror to remind myself. But it has been such a powerful way for me to get out of the darkness. And then also on the flip side of that, it's also reminded me to savor the moment. You know, these beautiful moments with my daughter, they will pass. And so it makes me be more present, more patient, more playful with her, because I don't want to miss a single thing. And so, you know, yeah, that one, this too shall pass. It's one of the best.
I love it. I love it. This too shall pass. Well, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. Go check out Melissa. I always shorten people's names and then my voice is like, anyway, Melissa, go check her out. I'll put the links below. And if you are listening, I always love to see where you're listening. So please take a screenshot, take a photo. Where are you listening? And tag Melissa, tag myself. And then we get to see that you're listening to the podcast and where you're listening to it.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been so fun. Thank you.